Is going on, Omi homies and Omets? And today we have our Degen Dad podcast coming at you, and we'll be talking about quite a bit. I mean, we have a lot of topics you don't want to miss out. You want to stay to the very end here. We're going to be talking about the VVAMA last night. We're going to be talking about the Blur airdrop, of course, and we're going to be talking about the Lambo drop on VV as well, and a lot of other stuff. History being literally made with things like Dookie Dash, Bitcoin ordinals. And today we have none other than the man, the myth, the legend, the mustache, Chris Coffee joining us today. Of course, the other DJ Dad. Chris, what is going on, my man?
Hey man, not much. Been a beautiful week in the crypto and NFT world.
Yeah, dude, we have a full stack of topics today. We have Daniel coming in live. We have energy with the good vibes, bringing in SoCal Omi Homie with the chair of justice at his house. He's bringing truth and justice this morning. And welcome in Omi Homies and Met. Please be sure to share this out. We have Chris Coffee himself tuning in. Let's go with all his beans and glory with his coffee business. All right, so Chris, let's get into it, man. I mean, let's right out of the gates. Let's talk about. We'll be talking about VV, of course, here in just a second. Mm. But the first topic, I mean, Blur. I mean, wow, incredible, man.
Yeah.
This is something very interesting because this shows that not only can a innovative platform take a lot of market share, but how they can successfully execute this as well. What's your thoughts on this whole thing?
Bro, I'm loving it, man. I've been telling people for months to get in on that airdrop farming. And even last week's episode in the show notes, I put, the alpha was prepare for the Blur airdrop. And dude, there's some people that just did a couple of tasks, a couple of trades on Blur, and they got over $1,000 airdrop to them for free just for participating. And I think one cool thing that I experienced, Kyle, is that I was able to explain how this system worked to like my parents, because my dad's always been familiar with eBay, and so I just use eBay as an analogy. I was like, imagine if eBay was a startup, and eBay rewarded you for first off using buy it now feature, using their features for a couple months, and then eBay says, all right, well now we're going to reward you for bidding. You don't even have to win the bid. But if you place a bid, eBay is going to like that you're taking place on their features, so they're going to reward you for that. And then they do another phase. So like, all right, well, eBay is going to reward you for like something else. So like my dad clearly understood that. There was no like, oh, you have to use this chain and do this. And like, it wasn't like super detailed. It was like very easy to explain to my friends and family. I am participating in a beta project, and that project's going to reward me for participating in it. So a lot of people got rewarded. Lots of money was printed. It literally made you tweet, money printer go Blur. People got a lot of money, bro, and for not doing a lot at all. There was a couple of millionaires made overnight.
Yeah, man. And just to like talk about for people that don't know what Blur is, like what is going on, what the heck is Blur? Blur is like essentially like OpenSea. Everybody knows what OpenSea is. It's like OpenSea. When I say like, it's kind of way different than OpenSea. This is a platform that's built for professional traders, and they have they have like a huge upgrade to their UI, which lets you kind of like sweep floors, as you can kind of see this like little demo here of somebody sweeping 6 items off the floor. It shows rarities. Yeah, it shows it shows rarities and all kinds of different stuff on here, and really makes it easier for you to do your NFT trading, your research, and to see like data on the fly. So they have a like taking significant market share from OpenSea and the macro NFT marketplaces. And it's vastly important. And we'll get into kind of this royalty issue in here in just a minute. But Chris, like, I don't know if you want to add to like the feature list here, but this is why they've been so disruptive. Recently. So
yeah, it's an aggregator too. So like one of my favorite parts about Blur is, they're having some OpenSea drama right now, but like ultimately it can be listed on Blur, it can be listed on OpenSea, it can be listed on X2Y2 or LooksRare, and Blur will show you the floor of that NFT. So like if you're on OpenSea and the floor is, let's say, 0.1 on OpenSea marketplace, you could go to Blur and you might be able to find it for 0.07 on a different marketplace. So Blur is the first aggregator that I've used. There was Gem XYZ. I used that one too, but Blur is the first one that has its own marketplace that I've used as well, and that has all these trading features. Like a lot of these tools you used to have to pay for in NFT trading, but like the charts at the bottom right, if you see like that sales volume being tracked, all the little white dots, that's pretty helpful. You can even like expand that. So I mean, that's just like being able to kind of see some data just off of using Blur itself. The sweep feature, I actually had issues with that. That's why I was saying I hate that. Didn't mean to interrupt you over there, but I've actually swept something, and I'm pretty sure I paid for 2 items and only got 1. So that was like a big that was a big loss at the time. But yeah, it's Blur's just kind of a one-stop shop, man. It's a tool to read analytics. It's got its own rarity checker, as you see. Each one of those little moonbirds has like a rarity next to it. It's the UI is beautiful. The founder is Pac-Man, bro. They immediately were listed on KuCoin. I think they're gonna get listed on Coinbase as well. So if you got the airdrop yesterday, most of the day the airdrop was worth like I heard it was like yeah yesterday. I think it was yesterday, maybe 2 days ago. Now this space just flies by, man. But anyways, it was worth like 60 cents the day that everybody got the airdrop. And dude, it's been trucking upwards right now. I can't my coin gecko is kind of not working right now. But last I checked, it was over $1.
Yeah, it was over like $1 too when I checked as well. And you can see here, like you can see the blur, like you can see where this NFT is listed. So it aggregates data from like OpenSea. You can see this one. It's got the little tiny OpenSea logo, just to show you like where it's listed here. But then that's kind of caused an issue in terms of royalties. So like if it's, these collections aren't filtering out like Blur, they have to like OpenSea pretty much blocks them from getting royalties on these other marketplaces, including OpenSea itself. So they're basically forcing collections to pick OpenSea, or essentially have to, pick one or the other. So it's caused a lot of issues. And the founder of Blur fired shots at OpenSea, saying that users should outright ban OpenSea usage. And he did encourage that OpenSea work with Blur to open up the royalty system so that creators can both win. So again, I talked about this on a Twitter space yesterday, Chris, about these royalties, because a lot of people in the VV community don't really understand how the wider macro space is working in terms of royalties. This is a perfect example of how hot the topic of royalties actually is in the macro NFT space.
Yeah, man. I mean, it is very important. I'm interested to see how OpenSea and Blur settle this royalty debate.
Yeah, very curious. I mean, as Blur continues to take market share, I saw all these pudgy penguins, man. These are all listed on Blur. Like that's actually pretty insane. And some of these projects,
actually click that. I can show you something about that.
yeah, it won't let me click this
Pudgies.
one, but
Okay.
I can go down to one of these collections.
I was gonna say, like Pudgy specifically, there's a lot of stolen, and Blur actually shows you if it's stolen or not. So it's a pretty cool feature.
Yeah, so that's another cool, innovative feature.
So you
Once
see how
again,
the top left doodle is like has a X through OpenSea or whatever. That
yep.
just means that basically it's flagged or stolen, and somebody's trying to offload it. So it kind of gives you a warning.
Yeah, that's another innovative feature there. Again, people in the VB community were asking about like, well, what's the process if somebody steals it? This is what me and actually Buck Nasty we were trying to explain to people, that you can actually flag these. And Chris, I think you might have talked about that last week as well. So, anyways, again, innovative marketplace, kind of changing the game. Giving OpenSea kind of a reality check. I don't know. Very interesting topic for sure. Did you have anything else to add to this one, or?
Money printer go Blur, man. I wish I could find. Unfortunately, CoinGecko or like everything's bugging out on me. But I was gonna try to get the price, but it's just crazy. Like you could have done like a couple of things on the marketplace and got airdropped over 1,000 tokens, which are now worth over $1 each.
Yeah, and some people again made hundreds of thousands of dollars on this airdrop. So
millions.
yeah, and the Dune analytics are showing that Blur is taking a significant market share out of literally the entire NFT marketplace market. So NFT marketplace wars are on, and people, I don't know, like I know we want interoperability, but it does beg the question: will brands just wait this out until this royalty situation is kind of like swept under the rug? And kind of settled, like ironed out. The details are kind of ironed out. Time will tell, I guess. But
Yeah, I guess the last thing is there is gonna be a airdrop, season 2. My expectations is pretty low for it after this, like, significant season 1 airdrop, but that's something that you could farm right now. You just gotta be careful because this one's higher risk. It's based off of listings and I think it's still based off of biddings, but it's so competitive, right? It's so competitive that people are bidding over the floor to, like, take part in it. Like, because, like, the higher bid you do, the higher risk you're taking of actually it getting accepted, and the higher Blur rewards you. So, like, right now, it's, like, extremely competitive.
yeah, are you talking about the like bidding on what now?
The Blur, like, using their
Oh,
features for this next airdrop that's coming up.
gotcha. Yeah. I would imagine so. Um, yeah. Next, speaking of that, speaking of like all this money, like liquidity, it feels like the crypto market is kind of on fire. What's your thoughts about that?
I'm not convinced that it's not a trickle effect from Blur because there has been some good news, like what happened. We could talk about this later, but like basically Hong Kong is going to be legally allowed to trade cryptocurrency again this summer. There's more good news about crypto being incorporated in 401ks. So those are both pretty good, but ultimately I didn't track it very closely, but I heard the CPI reports were actually pretty poor this week. Like we essentially got some bad news and the market didn't care. So I haven't paid enough attention to macro conditions, but I almost feel like this is all just still kind of hype and still kind of like a lot of people got stimmies, and so they're just putting it into crypto. And then with the stable coins, that there's been a lot of fear around stables this week, yet the crypto market doesn't care.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things going on. The CPI data came back. It was kind of like one of those awkward moments where it's like, well, it went up like 0.1%, and but it's like still 6.65 like percent higher than last year. So a lot of people are like expecting better, but at the same time, we're like, it's all right. So we'll just continue to go about this like mini bull market that's going on. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like things kind of went up a little bit after that CPI data came out. Is like people were just kind of like, I feel like, well, it's not too bad. So here we go.
Yeah.
um, and I think people are kind of reading into this a little bit about the Fed and how they're going about this inflation, tackling inflation, and feel that the Fed is on track actually. So I think a lot of people are anticipating this and kind of seeing, kind of trying to speculate on the Fed a lot here. And I think that's why the market has kind of slightly improved a little bit. But we'll see. I mean, next month could be a completely different story. I mean,
Yeah.
once another report comes out, it could make the market slide. So time will definitely tell. Um,
I do
uh,
want to point out that Bitcoin touched 25K for the first time since summer, so like since June specifically. And Ethereum is over 1,700 now, which I think it did touch 1,700 not long ago.
yeah. So some people are saying like Bitcoin could still dip, but not as far as it like they once predicted. So a lot of people were like, oh, it's going to go to like 10K, 14K in
Mhm.
between that range. Now people are kind of more like, oh, it could actually just go to like maybe 17K instead, based on like Fed data, stock market data, and things like that. So it's going to be definitely one to watch out for. Speaking of which, man, Bitcoin, another historical week this past week, 44 million non-zero addresses on the Bitcoin blockchain, meaning that the ordinals has a direct impact to people having Bitcoin balances in their wallet, and it broke
Mm,
all-time record of 44 million non-zero wallets on the Bitcoin blockchain. Chris, I
nice.
know you were into this really early on. Any thoughts about this?
Yeah, man, Ordinals is I I don't even know what the correct word to use, a cataclysmic event for the DeFi space. In my opinion, it's like the most secure spot for. I don't even want to call it an NFT because like Bitcoin is fungible, but like it's if you're not familiar with what an ordinal is, it's essentially a taking a Satoshi, which was 100 million Satoshis makes up one Bitcoin, and
Yep.
and inscribing something on that Satoshi. So now, like, that piece of Bitcoin has, like, an image on it. So the permanence there and the fact that it exists on the blockchain forever, like, it take like 100 years from now or like 200 years from now, like a lot, even Ethereum, like a lot, unless it's like in the chain, like it's made on chain. Um, a lot of Ethereum NFTs, like the IPFS that they store them on, or the centralized servers they store them on, might not be there. Like they might go out of business, the image might not exist anymore, the company might shut down. But if you're inscribing these on Bitcoin, 500 years from now, somebody could come and see one of these Satoshis, and if everything's still going smooth, and be able to see your JPEG on the chain. So like that digital permanence really struck with me, unlike anything I have like seen to date.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, it's like like you're saying, it's super significant. The permanence of that, like what makes it different from Ethereum NFTs is that it's on literally on chain. Whereas most like 99.99% of, or like all of Ethereum NFTs are like, done with IPFS, which is a decentralized file system, which is still good, but technically it still has to be upkept and ran. So like if anything ever went down, technically your art could go down and you'd have to like re-up it or update it and move to a different system. There's been improvements on this, like there's Arweave and things like that. But yeah, in terms of the significance of this being on the king of crypto, Bitcoin itself, the original blockchain, I mean, this is huge. It's massive.
Yeah.
And people still making history. It broke 100K like the other day.
Nuts. Yeah, I remember watching it cross 10K, man. It was like such a moment. We were all on Twitter Spaces watching that entire block, and the block ended, and it was at 9,999. It's almost like it was like playing a trick on us.
Yeah, so absolutely insane. Now, speaking of history, Dookie Dash ended with a historical, a well-known gamer, like a professional esports player from the Fortnite days, and he won a lot of tournaments. I mean, he was very well known for his insane reflexes, building skills in Fortnite. Mongrel, Chris, what's your thoughts about this one? I know me and you were both watching this one from the sidelines. Did he cheat? Did he not?
No, he
got the key. So this is like the keys to the Bored Ape Yacht Club. I don't know, Chris. What does this key go to, anyways? I don't even know.
Yeah, I was gonna pull it up, but OpenSea is broken right now. It looks like it's not showing me very well.
Basically tweeted a animation of the key, so we can maybe pull that up.
Here it is.
On
I
Twitter.
got it. Let me share my screen. Let me see how do I share my screen?
Okay. But yeah, Mongrel killed that game. I mean, got a score of like, what was it, over 800,000 or something crazy?
Yeah, I don't know I don't know what his final score was, but it was ridiculous. So you see how it says number 1? Each of these sewer passes are like, numbered now. But if you click the number 1, it turns into like this key. And right now he has it listed for 2,222 Ethereum, which is like almost $4 million. And I think it's going to sell. Like I really do. And I think that this is a fair price for like the number 1 key. As I'm not gonna say fair price, but I mean it's literally the number 1 asset in one of the Huga collections. And not only if there's more to this than just like buying the key, you're buying like I feel like somebody who's like really in NFTs and really wealthy, like Machi, is gonna buy this as like a statement piece, and this is gonna make the news, man. Web 2 gamer, they're not gonna say Web 2. Professional gamer plays this NFT game, gets the number 1 key, and makes millions off of it. You're not just gonna see that on crypto and NFT news. You're gonna see that on like all news outlets. Like that's gonna be breaking. So you think about it, like I think the right person is probably gonna spend this money just for like a giant marketing campaign. And on top of that, they're gonna have the best asset in this, in this collection. But I can totally see this happening. And also, one thing I want to note too is if you go to Mongrel's vault, this dude's actually like did this a lot. He bought a lot of keys, and almost all these like in the top 30. Man, like I got number 1, number 2. He didn't get number 3, but he got number 5. Like he got number 7. So he got like several of the top 10. This dude's gonna make millions of dollars off of playing this game.
Yeah, I mean, rightly so. I mean, gamers should be making money. I mean, I mean, this is kind of one of those once in a lifetime type of opportunities. I feel like there's going to be a couple more out there. But this one, obviously, one of the most well-known, notable, historical, significant Web3 games, and it being beat by Mongrel, who was very well known for making like these like insane courses in Fortnite that like creators could make, and he would like run through this like obstacle course and then beat that obstacle course in a record time. So he's already very well known in the Fortnite community for doing things like this, and he turns around and does this for gamers and Web3 games. I think that's huge and a huge impact there. So shout out to Mongrel for really winning this. I mean, that's pretty massive. Um,
It was just
yeah,
under a
yeah,
million. It was 928,522, which is
just
like 10x the average person.
yeah, yeah. It's insane. Even like the Web3 gaming community, nobody touched like was even close to touching that. Like Web3 gamers that were very well known, like didn't even come close to touching that.
It
But yeah,
kind of, not to be rude, but it kind of reminds me if you're like at a smaller school, but you're like the big dog at a sport at that smaller school, and then you play like a 5A team and you get smashed. It's
yeah.
kinda feel like there was, like, big dogs that were, like, the good gamers of Web3, and they are, they could probably whoop me at any game, but then somebody who's, like a top dog professional steps in and just demolishes everybody. Like, that's what we saw here.
Yeah, just insane, man. So speaking of Twitter and things like that, Elon tweeting about Floki. What's up with that,
Oh,
man?
no. Oh, no, I didn't
Do
see
we?
that.
Yeah, Elon in other news tweeting about the CEO of Twitter. And I think a lot of people at first thought it was Doge, but if you actually look close under in the tweet, it says under his name it's Floki.
What the heck?
Yeah, and a lot of people were speculating that Elon was into Floki, and this kind of confirms it. So,
Yeah.
even Stephen Graham or Stephen Graham, whatever his name is, those financial YouTubers, they all covered Floki in speculation that Elon was actually talking about Floki the whole time and not
No.
Doge after a
What the
while.
heck? Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I didn't see
so
that. Did he delete it? Do you have the tweet?
Elon's tweet?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's still up there. Yeah, feel free to throw it up there.
I'll look for it.
But yeah, in a nutshell, he's been tweeting about Floki lately and things like that, being this like jokingly the CEO of Twitter, and it's a picture of a dog. So, anyways, pretty funny stuff. I don't know. Are people? Do you think people are going to YOLO into Floki coin?
Probably too late now. They probably already did. Would have
Yeah,
been a good trading opportunity.
yeah, but like long term, does he have plans for Floki? That's the real question here. Because I mean, if he integrates Floki with like Twitter, for example, that could be pretty big.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, it's only up like 50%. I expected like way more. That's just in
Yeah,
24
yeah.
hours. That's in 24 hours though. I wonder like within the week, it's probably here, let me check.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of is how it happened with Doge. Like he tweeted one or two times about Doge initially, and then it obviously went up, but that was like at the beginning of a bull market. So like obviously his tweets had like way more impact.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of how it began as well, and then things got like crazy. Um, but yeah,
I
so
like
speaking, yeah, go ahead.
I was getting my internet's like bugging bad. Like I can't or it might just be these like websites. Like I can't pull up anything.
All right, no worries there. Let's move on to the next one here. Obviously he's had scrutiny in the past of like doing his tweets and even ran in issues with the SEC. Speaking of SEC, banning staking, I mean, Brian Armstrong from Coinbase actually weighed in on this and was basically saying that he suspects that the SEC wants to outright ban staking altogether in the US. What's your
Mm.
thoughts on that? Is that another black swan event?
No, but it's just sad for the US. Like they're gonna be left behind financially if they keep on having these like very brute force reactions to like things they don't understand or things that they're just trying to overregulate. Like I don't know, it's kind of sad to see that the US isn't reacting accordingly. They need somebody in office who actually understands the technology and understands the how this can impact like our financial system and kind of go from there. So it's more just makes me at the end of the day, like I guess the beauty of DeFi is that like doesn't really matter how hard they regulate it. Oh, CoinGecko's overcapacity. I've literally never seen that. That's why it wasn't popping up. But anyways, it doesn't really matter because like it's decentralized at the end of the day, but it's still like yeah, it's going to impact things if people don't have a good way to access it.
Yeah, like you said, man, I feel like that's going to put us years behind, or maybe even a decade. If this like goes through and they start banning stuff out of just wanting to regulate. I feel like the SEC just has trigger finger and they're just like super overreactive to regulation. And since they're not putting out clear regulation, the only tool that they have is just suing everybody. I mean,
Yeah.
this is kind of embarrassing to have a country that has always been at the tip of the spear in terms of innovation. Obviously like the car assembly lines, like tons of other historical inventions, and we even invented like the computer chip. So this is kind of a joke. US is like already like considered the financial hub of the world, and for the SEC not to like have clarification here is kind of embarrassing. And you mentioned earlier, Chris, Hong Kong, I think they're like fully legalizing crypto there, and it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, there just needs to be more clear conditions. Also, Brian Armstrong also said this, like something similar to what I just said in a tweet the other day. He says America is at risk of losing its status as a financial hub long term, with no clear regulations on crypto and a hostile environment from regulators. Congress should act to pass clear legislation. Crypto, and then he said crypto is open to everyone in the world, and others are leading the EU, the UK, and now Hong Kong.
yeah, it's kind of tragic. But what's not tragic? Well, actually, we have one more tragic topic here. Is BUSD under attack? A stablecoin attack? Is that like that's kind of an ongoing issue too? Kind of a mini
Yeah.
black swan here. Um,
Oh,
again,
I got an interesting thought on that too in a bit.
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go share it.
Well, like, so the BUSD is under attack by the SEC being considered a security, and so is USDC. So what does that make gems on Vivi?
Yeah. Well, I think in-app like currency, like kind of gamified, like V-Bucks on Fortnite, those aren't considered securities. But
But you can't trade V-Bucks out for like you can't cash them out for like supposedly 1 to 1 to $1 though.
that's very true. Yeah, I mean, they do have a MTL or money transmitter license. Maybe it's because it's revolving the sale of digital collectibles. I mean, that's a good point. That's a good point you brought up. Somebody says, any thoughts on David's response to the lack of exchanges for Omi? We forgot to talk about the VV, the
Oh
VV
man.
AMA
Yeah.
last night with Lori. Shout out to Lori, man. She's a G.
Yeah. She did a great
She,
job.
she always does a great job. She's like a natural interviewer. It's like she
Hmm.
found her like life's calling. Like,
Yeah.
man. Anyways, yeah, there's a lot of things here to dissect, man. I mean, there's pros and then there's cons. All right. Lori asking, hey, are these going to be interoperable one day? Will they have utility one day? I don't know if we got a clear answer on that. So let's cover maybe the cons first. Out of the gates here, did it make
Sure.
you bullish, bearish? What were some of the cons?
I hated it. I mean, like I won't even sugarcoat it. To me, that was the worst. Lori did an amazing job, so not on her end, but on some of David's responses, that was just like the most like bearish, like straightforward responses personally I've heard towards some of the topics. Now, like I guess you can argue that like at least some of them are straightforward, but like the interoperability thing, man. So like the first time that it was asked, she basically said, "Do we have interoperability, or is interoperability coming?" David said, "We have fidgetals." I didn't even know how to respond to that, so I was like, "Oh god." Well, hopefully she like re-asked the question, and she did. Again, Lori did an amazing job, so she re-asked the question again, and then David said this pretty vague statement. I kind of like posted about it on Twitter, but like I want to know your thoughts too, Kyle. Um, to what he said. He said around this is like pretty much not word for word. I don't want to misquote him, but I did quote it right after he said it. If VV goes belly up, they will be released to the public. And then there was like another clip from that too. what does that mean? Like, what does it mean they'll be released to the public? And then he said something about L1s, but it was like really random with it. Like basically, like the artist collectibles and comics will be released to L1, and then the licensed ones will be released to the licensors. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they need to more like officially say something about that. Maybe have like Alex or Reese talk about that, like in that scenario. I think we should hopefully get more clarification around that. I don't know. Um, you know, again, I don't know if like, I guess David is like, isn't he like Taiwanese? Like he has Taiwanese descent. So like in terms of, I don't know if English is his first language, for example. So I think it's kind of hard to like extrapolate sometimes.
That's fair.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's questions I have too on that. I don't know what that looks like. It would be muddy either way, but it sounds like at the end of the day, users would get their NFTs like, hopefully back to their wallets. I just don't know. There's the other scenario that's like, well, what happens with the data? Are you guys storing everything on IPFS, or does like that data have to like be redone by these brands and artists? I don't think Vivi is going to go under, but if it did, it would create a kind of a muddy situation, and a lot of questions would be asked. But at least at the minimum, there would be some reassurance that we would get our NFTs back. So
I hope, because the way that it sounded to me was that they would be given back to the licensors, and that essentially from there they decide, what to do with our assets. And while like everybody could probably respond to this, well, look, of course Disney's going to like give you back your assets. That's their reputation. Maybe Disney will, but maybe I'm a Matt Gondek will. Or whatever. Like maybe I have like Batman stuff or whatever. Like if I have like I don't think every single licensor is going to be responsible with their assets, and I don't even like the idea of it going back to the companies and like where are they going to store it. I don't know, Kyle. Like I feel like maybe that wasn't the time and place, but we don't get the team very often for these very straightforward questions. And a lot of things we I don't really feel like it's our business, some of the things, but when it comes to our assets, like I do feel like that's our business. So like I
mhm.
feel like there needs to
That's a
be
good
this like
point. Yeah.
very clear cut what's going to happen with these assets if you go down. And like I guess like at the end of the day, if the answer is what we all fear, like we lose our assets if they go belly up, maybe they just don't want to say that out loud, and maybe it will never be said out loud. And I'm not saying that's what it is, but it's like if it's not that, I would love to know what it is. Like I would love to know
Yeah.
exactly you'll be given the keys to these wallets. They'll exist on Immutable X, or like what's the plan B if there is a plan B? I do feel like we deserve to know that with our assets.
True. True. So yeah, that would create definitely a muddy situation. Hopefully that never happens. Obviously. What
Yeah,
were some of the other things? I thought it was kind of funny too. Like some of the responses, like Lori, like, are we going to get interoperability? And it's kind of like this, like, not so like straightforward answer. And then like,
yeah.
we're talking about digitals now. It's like, well, like we're here for the digital side. So anyways,
Well,
interest.
I do want to add one more thing on that. Like I do agree with you. Like let's say like, oh, well, the odds of VV going belly up is low. But what about the odds of VV getting hacked? Like yeah, they've already been exploited before. Granted, the exploit was, less severe. But like if they get hacked and then like something happens to our assets through that, like there's other scenarios that could happen where like it would affect us directly without them going belly up. So again, just like understanding a plan B again, like I feel like there's certain things we ask that just isn't our business, but there's other things just like okay, well, like these
Yeah,
I literally paid for this, and I
there.
would like to know.
Yeah, there's a lot to dissect there in general too. It's like if everything was operable at the time that the hack happened, I don't know if people would have got their collectibles back at the same time. But now we are, and I think V is in a good place to maybe allow that now. Hopefully, like the security side has been buttoned up enough to where we don't have to worry about that on the platform. So there's a lot to dissect in that, and the utility. I think they kind of. I don't know if this is like 100%, but I think they said like basically like utility is not going to happen for a while. I mean, I don't. I think that's kind of how I took it. or like some of these older collectibles aren't going to have utility, but maybe the new ones like moving forward are. Is that what kind of was said? I don't exactly
I
remember
I
the
had a
wording
dip,
on that.
like, right when that conversation started because I had another space that I help run,
Yeah.
with NFT now, but that's essentially what I got from it before I left, and that's also, like, not new, but for some
Right.
people are
Right.
still kinda clinging to it, like, I don't remember the source, but I swear and it might have been Alex, and people are saying that, Alex kinda goes back and forth on some things, but I swear that somebody said before that, like, one that they're not gonna add utility to older collectibles, like, specifically, I wanna say even, like, even the golden moments directly, like they said that in the past, but I don't remember, like, for sure, and it was something to do with, like, if they do release utility, they, like, need an agreement with the licensor to, like, do that utility, so it needs to be, like, disclosed at the time of drop, kinda like how, like, we saw utility with the golden moments, and it was the Disney, Plus, so, like, they had utility that was discussed and that was promoted. So, I don't know if they're gonna go back and add that utility to Disney, and if they do, I think it's gonna be things that are on Vivi's end, so, like, not licensed products, but, like, Vivi logo. Like, Vivi at any point can come out and say, "Alright, we're gonna add this utility to the Vivi logo," because like, that's their product.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll probably continue to do that with the gold logo. I think David already said in like a AMA that they'll continue to add utility like forever for those. So, I'm excited for those, but yeah, other collectibles, it's kind of like a bummer, but it is what it is. A couple of good things though that I did get out of it was his response to some of the questions around are taking our assets off of Immutable X or like the interoperability there, or Disney choosing Polygon, I think is the actual question that was asked in terms of the
Yeah.
accelerated program. He did mention that like Vivi is not bound down by one chain. And he said that like, they could look at options or they could, do things there. I don't know his exact wording on that, but from what I got out of that, it sounds like they could support an additional chain in the future. That to me is actually very bullish. Because a lot of people have mixed feelings about IMX because they've developed kind of slow compared to Polygon. Um, but what's your thoughts on that? Could VV become multi-chain? Would that make you more bullish long term? What's your thoughts on that?
I actually interpreted that differently, and I'm not saying that my interpretation is correct, but the way that I interpreted it was Lori asked what David thinks about Disney choosing Polygon when Vivi's on Immutable, and I interpreted it as, "Is that Logan Paul drink?" And I
Yeah,
interpreted that as,
it's a new flavor, bro.
as
I'm sponsored. No, I'm kidding. I'm not. They should.
oh, okay.
They should switch
I
Degen dads right here on
They
the
should, bro,
podcast.
they should. But I interpreted that as David saying, to his knowledge, that Disney is not bound to just Polygon, not Vivi, and that Disney could be multi-chained. But I mean, like, I'm not closed off to the fact that he could invent like Vivi as well. And I don't know, like, I mean, yeah, I think multi-chain is the answer. Shout out to Recur,
Yeah.
because Recur is chain agnostic. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I really thought that he was just kind of talking about, to his knowledge, Disney's not going to be bound to Polygon, which I agree with. I think Disney's not going to be bound just to Polygon.
Yeah, see, I took it because I think he actually literally said Vivi is not bound to like a Vivi is not a blockchain app. Like, it's got the underlying technology as I think he just meant like Vivi doesn't have to just use Immutable X. So I
Yeah,
could see that being bullish if they do like implement Polygon because that could mean these starter programs you could transfer assets into like that would open up a whole different world. Obviously, Vivi's like development is so slow at this current time that I don't know if I can be super bullish. It just make me a little bit more bullish. Like it wouldn't make me
yeah.
like again, they would have to deliver this year on a lot of the features that they've said that they would for me to feel confident about that again. But it
Mhm.
does like at least that they're thinking about these things. So for me, that was definitely a kind of a little nugget there. Another one was that Bob Iger apparently was the CEO, and then of course he stepped down from being CEO and was a chairman of Disney when Vivi was in talks with Disney during their license talks and discussions early on. That
Yeah.
actually makes me very reassuring of the Disney license and Marvel because Bob Iger was there, and now he's back as the CEO. Anyways, I thought that was kind of a gold nugget out of kind of the whole AMA. That we got a lot of indirect answers. I feel like that weren't like clarifying anything, but out of those couple of nuggets I did get, that one stuck out to me because Bob Iger's bullish on Web3.
Yeah, for
Any
sure.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I like that part of it. David also made a comment of like a 100-year license, I think, something like that.
Oh man, I don't know. That's crazy.
Basically, I mean, not that he has it, but like I think that, like that's the plan is to like just
Mm.
always have that license with Disney, and it sounded like he was in good relationship with either Bob Iger or like somebody at Disney because I don't remember who Lori asked he spoke to, but she was basically like, were you talking to them recently? And David's like, yeah. So like I think like they're in good standings with their licensors. So like I think at the end of the day that's not a concern. Like, I think it's good to know that Disney's probably gonna be around with VB, or, Disney and VB are gonna be teamed up for years to come.
Yeah, and just coming off of like everything we talked about in terms of Blur and the royalty thing, again, these big companies have to be looking at like the wider NFT space and being like WTF. Like like I'm scared now to like go off of VV. So that actually is a silver lining for VV in my opinion. Now, again, we're like there's two different sides of the coin here. We have Web3 maxis that are like Degen, take my assets off app. I want to be able to trade them on SudoSwap, OpenSea, and all these other marketplaces out there. But the reality is, yeah, Blur. But Blur pointed out a big issue in the royalty. They literally poked a big hole in OpenSea's bubble that I could see this like affecting brands and how they view the current NFT space as a whole. And Blur doing justice to this whole situation. So it is something that interesting to think about in the macro. That does make VV more attractive to the brands, I think, if they're paying attention. I don't know how deeply involved these brands are. We've seen a lot of them flop. Porsche kind of flopped in the beginning before they
still 2x. Yeah, before
they
they cut
2x.
supply.
Yeah, before they cut the supply. But yeah, we've seen a lot of brands flop. So it does beg the question though, if the brands are paying attention to this, they got to be like asking themselves like, oh my God, I might not get paid for my IP. So another like little silver lining there. I know again, this AMA wasn't like a super bullish one. I feel like in terms of the community, like we're all kind of like phygital. Like we want to know if we're going to be interoperable. That's kind of like the $1 million question.
I think what you just said to like, see, like the whole, well, it's convenient that we didn't move faster. Like, I don't like that argument, and that's how like the original question, the B said, any thoughts on David's response to lack of exchanges for Omi? I believe one of his responses was essentially they like forgot to sign something and then they went on a trip.
It's like a DocuSign.
I don't like that answer, dude. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it feels like it feels like you dropped the. I'm just gonna be straightforward with it. It feels like you dropped the ball on something, but it ended up working out. So you're gonna like act like you did it on purpose.
Dude, all right. Dude, yeah. So okay, here's my take on that. I agree, but like at the same time, I feel like VV has like their mess ups have like worked out for them so much. I don't even know how one project could do this. Like it's like they've I don't know. It's like they stumbled into success here, and I mean, I guess that's good for them and good for like some of the collectibles. You know, if you were super early as well. But anyways, it's just interesting to see how like things have worked out for them in some of those situations. But like at the same time, it was kind of like by their like just by like human error that happened. It's like great. It kind of is crazy how it worked out. Like, you know what I mean?
Maybe they're just destined for success. So like,
That's what it seems like.
No matter what happens, they're just, they're just gonna make it.
Dude, it's weird. It's like the universe has literally like conspired to make them successful, even though they've like fudged up a couple of things here and there. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
Do you know what he said? This is kind of I mean, it's on topic of the AMA, but like, do you do you remember what he said in response to the how many active users we have? Because Lori asked the question, I listened in for like 10 minutes for an answer, but then I had to go, and David was kind of like dancing around it.
Oh, I don't know.
No,
No, there's a
okay,
couple of questions like that, so I'm not sure.
okay, gotcha. Well, I probably sounded negative these last 10, 20 minutes, and I just ultimately I didn't like that AMA as far as the answers go. But I'm excited about the Lambo drop. I know you
The
did.
Lambo drop, yeah.
Apparently you did a live on it yesterday. I think you were shadow banned on YouTube because like literally I checked all over YouTube and I couldn't find it. I'm pretty sure I was even like on YouTube the time you went live and it didn't show it to me.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, YouTube's weird sometimes. Could have been shadow
So
banned. Who
what'd you find
knows?
out? What'd you find out in the live?
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know. YouTube's YouTube. But yeah,
Yep.
Lambo. That's gonna be interesting. Supposedly affordable, supposedly low editions. Um, I think this one's gonna be a banger. I think this is just a no brainer.
Yeah, me too. I think there's gonna be 1963 editions, and I think that because of their first drop on the NFT marketplace, on their first NFT drop, they typically stuck with the 1963. So I just don't know if they're gonna do like. I hope what my hope is they do 1963 total editions and then break that down to the four rarities. What I think is gonna happen though is they're probably gonna do like 1963, like there's no common, but like the most common one. And then they're probably going to do like 963 of the secret rare or something like that. I don't know, but I hope it's 1963 total.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think a lot of people are gonna go for this one. Hopefully, it doesn't get like botted out. That would suck, but I think it might. So there's gonna be a possibility there, unless they've, improved on the back end. How to track down those bots. But this one's pretty exciting. I'm excited for it, and hopefully, we'll be able to drive these in the VVverse. I don't know. Will we be able to drive these, Chris? What's your thoughts on that in the VVverse?
Let's just assume the VV is now. And like, will these be drivable? I think the secret rare is going to be drivable. And it's going to have that VV license plate. We've seen it.
Yeah,
We see that often. Like usually like the most common is like static. And then usually there's like what's it called? The ratio is off or whatever it's called. The aspect ratio, not aspect ratio. Like
I got
it's
I got
not
some
full
alpha.
size. Okay, yeah, go for it.
So a VV, one of like I can't say who it is, but the rumor was that if you complete this set, that the fifth Lambo, you'll get airdropped, or maybe I don't know what the exact. I think it's going to be an airdropped, like blue VV NFT or a blue Lambo NFT as the fifth Lambo.
Uh,
So it's going to be a
okay.
kind of like what we saw at
Who
Decon.
said that?
I can't say. Well, he
What?
tweeted it. If you look up NFT hodler, I think
Okay.
he said that he replied on Twitter. But
Wow,
that's just
okay.
a rumor. I don't know if that's going
Yeah.
to be 100% correct, but
You heard it here
um,
first. Kyle said, "Buy all the Lambos and you'll get a free
no,
airdrop."
this is not financial advice. That's just a rumor in the rumor mill. So take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
All right,
It
other
would be cool
brands
to have all of
launching.
them.
There's other like premium brands launching in Web3. GQ's launching their own NFT collection with real world perks. So there's still like brands doing a lot of stuff in the crypto winter bear market.
Yeah, bro. Maybe not for long.
What do you mean?
Things are, I'm joking because like things macro isn't looking better, but like just things are looking so good right now. It just I wish it would just keep going up, of course.
Yeah, I don't know, man. To me, this still feels like crypto winter.
Oh, same.
Like I don't know. Like the liquidity, the volume, like NFTs are technically still like 90% down. I don't know what like the exact percentage, but um man, I'm just ready for a real like bull market, like a real one. That's what we.
I think I've made more money in 2023 off of NFT trading than I have in the last bull market.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean,
It's crazy. But I'm a lot more in tune with it now. Like I know more now and I'm a better trader and I find more
so
alpha.
Daniel says Alex said no, but how many times has
Uh
wait? How many times has Alex been misleading
Dang, shots
in terms.
fired. He's gonna comment on this video again saying,
No, I shouldn't say misleading. I should say he's misdirected us on purpose, and then we've actually got like what
yeah,
was rumored. So take what Alex says with a grain of salt. He could be trying to trick us here. He's tried to trick us before, so we'll see. I didn't
yeah.
mean to say misleading. That was probably
I'm
the wrong
joking.
thing to
Yeah,
say.
it's gonna get clipped and go all over Twitter.
Yeah, Chris is going to clip me. Basic
It's gonna be by
copyright
me.
issues. Speaking of issues and things like that, Basie having their own issues.
Yeah, man, it's a very interesting debate. Basically, one of the prominent Bored Ape holders used his IP to do a mint. Let's say it's an open edition, and Bored Ape, even though it was apparently a trait of his ape, Bored Ape issued him a cease and desist letter saying that he didn't own the rights to it. So this is where it's interesting and is different than anything you've heard yet, is because the argument is his Bored Ape had like the Bored Ape logo skull on the shirt, so it was a trait. So he was just using his ape, to be able to drop this open edition mint. But being's it was Bored Ape's logo, they're saying that it wasn't his. So just the interesting part about this is like, do you own full IP rights to the traits, or do you have to use like the whole image? And that's not very clear in the terms of service.
Mhm.
Not just for Basie, but, like, for a lot of things, like, we talk about IP a lot, like, on just in this space. So, like, what do you actually own at the end of the day?
Yeah, and this is the first one, and I was talking to you about this like before the stream. Is the whole writer rips, like he ripped Basie off, pun
Yeah.
intended. So they're in a lawsuit, a trademark lawsuit, but he's bringing up in this trademark lawsuit copyright issues. So he's trying to get the court or the judge to like on record say that Basie doesn't have the copyright to the underlying images, because they actually admitted in court that they don't have the copyright to the underlying images and artwork to those individual NFTs, because also it's a generative project, so you can't actually legally own generative like art, like, and they promoted and marketed that essentially to their buyers that you own you have the copyrights
Yeah.
to these artworks. So there's going to be a lot more of this going on that will kind of decide long run how this will pan out. So this was going to be interesting to kind of like watch on the sidelines here. Because that could affect how people use their art. I mean, this is a
Yeah.
bullish case if like Ryder Rips wins or somehow like sets precedents. This could be a win for artists in general, because then now these like 10,000 collections will have to literally be done one of ones by actual artists, like that's
I
actually made.
I see what you mean. I think Ryder Rips is still different though than this lawsuit. Like, and to me, from my understanding, the Ryder Rips is an L for artists, because Ryder Rips last year was saying, and it could have changed. It's been a year, but he was saying you could essentially steal art, 101 art, but it's not the art that you're selling; it's a token. So like, you're not really like stealing the art, because he's big on not he doesn't believe in or he believes that like everything's a derivative. Like every form of art's a derivative from creation or
Mm,
whatever. So like he's essentially arguing that like copyright is in general just like shouldn't exist. But specifically in NFTs, you're not stealing art because technically you're selling a token, you know? So does that make sense? So like
yeah,
that was his original debate, was that, oh, I'm not stealing the Bored Ape art. I'm just selling these tokens that just so happen to point to ape images, you know?
right. Yeah, that was his
Yeah.
angle, but I think legally though, like he can't say that because the tokens are going to be associated with the art. So I think he's thrown that part out of the door or out of the window. And now it's going to like legally, by definition, you can't copyright generative art.
Mhm.
So this could actually be a scenario where artists will have to like literally make the one of one art for like a 10,000 separate pieces of art for a collection. So I don't know. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
he probably pivoted because his lawyers probably told him that this would be
Yeah,
a
I
better
mean,
better angle, but he's not a good person.
right.
You know,
Well,
I know you're a Ryder Rips fan, it's clear.
no,
He's got a very bad history of
no, this one,
bad things.
yeah, no, what I think he is he's like a professional, like troll, if you will, that's like trying to poke holes into these different things. And he's really smart because I think he baited Basie into suing him, and in that kind of case, he's like in that like train of thinking, he's kind of winning in that scenario and putting a lot of like light on this actual situation. So it's going to be interesting. Again, this could be nothing. Basie could just win the trademark case, and it's not even a copyright case. So anything that he brings up in terms of copyright may not even matter because it's not even a copyright case. But this does tie in with the other case, though, because that is a copyright case. So they do tie in together in terms of what's happening and the same issues being played out. But that goes to show how early we are, Chris, in this kind of NFT space and how they legally will have to do things here.
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna point out, I don't think Machi liked the news. Let's look at these transactions. Sold other deeds for 2 ETH, sold other deeds for 2 ETH, sold a mutant for 16 ETH, sold 2 ETH. Like dude, Machi sold off so much stuff yesterday. Like he
So maybe
sold
there is something to
every,
this copyright thing, maybe there is.
but granted, he did sell like a lot of other stuff as well. So
Yeah,
maybe, but like yeah, Machi was
maybe
selling like
he's
all of his assets yesterday.
yeah, it could just be because he thinks the mini bull run might be over or whatever. And also they announced the winner of the Dookie Dash, so maybe he's just trying to capitalize on the gains in this kind of mini bull run.
You know what I think? You know what my conspiracy is? I'm gonna say it out loud. I'm gonna clip it later when I'm right. I think he's saving up for the key. I think he's gonna buy that key, like the Dookie Dash #1 pass.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I think he's gonna be the one to do it.
But again, though, if he is trying to do that, he could just be locking in those gains as well, like in this kind of mini bull run to get the key as well. So,
Yeah,
um,
he also just got a 7-figure Blur airdrop. He got over $1 million airdrop from Blur.
insane, bro.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Speaking of things, I don't. There's no easy transition on this one. Polygon ZK EVM beta goes live next month. This one's a big one because Vitalik Buterin, the founder of Ethereum, obviously everybody knows who he is. Long ago, this was like years ago, I think 4 or 5 years ago, he was talking about how Ethereum could be scaled through layer twos. Well, here we are 4 or 5 years later. Polygon is probably on the I guess in terms of EVM compatibility with Ethereum for layer twos, they are almost like at parity with being EVM equivalent to Ethereum. So that's a kind of a big deal. And what that means is like, they can roll up their transactions and broadcast to Ethereum, I guess, like more seamlessly than the other layer twos. And I don't know, there's a lot that goes into that as well. I'm not going to get into the techie side. And I haven't like read up on my documents on that in a while. So but that's going to be interesting. That goes live. That's huge
Yeah.
for layer twos and I guess the adoption of layer twos. So, any thoughts on that?
I still am not the biggest fan of Polygon, but that's just because like I mentally associate it with scams. Because like a lot of times on like OpenSea, somebody will send you like an asset that like they'll send you an asset and it'll be priced in Polygon, and if you like go to approve that asset that was sent to you, it could like grant access to all your NFTs. So like it was like a common scam last year at this time, and I know that's not really Polygon's fault, but it just is like permanently like made me cautious. It's kind of like probably a bad example, but like getting stung by something that doesn't typically sting you, but like the rest of your life you're like a little bit scared of that insect or whatever. Or it's I kind of feel like that. Like I'm always like a little cautious around Polygon. But all that to say, yeah, layer twos are huge. We talked about this in a chat last night, but like essentially like Ethereum mainnet is there for permanence, more permanence, and then the layer twos built on top of it are like for scaling. And so like all like me and you are both bullish on like Web3 gaming and bullish on like just a lot of different like fun things you can do with NFTs, and all these fun things are typically going to be done over L2s.
Yeah, totally. So it also allows these layer twos to scale even more now, and it also is good for Ethereum's network effect as well. So what we're seeing in the layer two race right now is Arbitrum, Optimism, and I think there's another one. Mutable X is a little bit lower down the list, but Arbitrum and Optimism are like basically out processing Ethereum transactions, which makes them very obviously useful. So again, layer twos will like in terms of Web3 gaming, they're going to be around forever because it's hard to have all these successful games pop off and be built on layer one. It's like at this current time, it is impossible to do that. So you do need layer twos in certain use cases like Web3 gaming. And again, long run, this will probably be a thing forever. Mutable X are building down to a layer three for a dedicated layer three for games like, let's say, World of Warcraft built on a layer two. Well, then they could have their own dedicated layer three. So it'd roll up all their in game transactions to the layer two. And then the layer two would roll it up to because the layer two would have order book, open order books across all the marketplaces built with Mutable X. So you'd have max liquidity and volume across all the marketplaces, and then from there it would roll up to the layer one and finalize that transaction and broadcast it to prove that you own that asset.
Yeah,
So
I kind can I can I pitch that back to you just to make sure I get it?
mhm,
So like let's say like VV is a layer 3 or whatever. It's not, but like hypothetically.
yeah,
Like I could like upgrade my assets on VV, like I could, be playing that Marvel Mighty's game that you've been hyping up and like collect all these like, at all these accessories for my Marvel Mighty. Then I could realize that on layer 2 and then ultimately I could pay for the gas fee and then realize that on layer 1, kind of like that. Or did I misunderstand?
um, yeah. In layman's terms, like if the game like they don't have to opt into layer three, so the layer three will be optional for these games. So like if you do have a big enough game and you want in-game your own in-game marketplace to process like all of these
Yeah.
microtransactions. So it's more of like a microtransaction scenario where like users are like going crazy in the game. World of Warcraft is like, everybody's doing like trades and swords and blah blah blah. Then that rolls up to the layer two, which in turn rolls up to the layer one. So that's
Okay.
kind of how that would work. So the
Okay.
layer two is more for the order book, the open order book system, where user wants to roll up um, for like mass liquidity across all the marketplaces like Token Trove, IMX, GameStop. That's where that scenario comes in on the layer two level.
Blockchain Comics said VV is on layer fumbled, bro. We didn't even talk about the Super Bowl. Did you get the Digidaigaku dragon? Did you scan and get it in time?
Hang on, I gotta like take that comment in. That's kind of funny. Um, did I scan
V,
it? No, I
hey,
I fumbled it. I fumbled it.
it goes back to our conversation earlier. VV like fumbled, but like they somehow recovered it. They fumbled, but the ref was on their side. So the ref was like, you know what, VV, you fumbled, but we're still gonna let you keep playing.
Yeah, or it's like they have some kind of like freak like call that like
Yeah.
makes them win the game. I mean the Chiefs arguably had a couple calls this year where it was literally late in the fourth quarter with like less than a minute left, or like literally seconds left in some cases. And Pat Mahomes like was running out of bounds, and some guy shoves him, and the flag got thrown, and that put him in field goal range, so they could even go to the Super Bowl. I feel like
Yeah.
that's what VB like it's happening to VBVs like running downfield, and like all of a sudden like some random guy pushes them out of bounds and they get the flag thrown in their favor. And I feel like that's what's happening.
It,
The flag being a blur, like Blur's like, we're throwing a flag here. Like, I don't know.
it, it reminds me of I just watched like one of the Monster Inc. shows with my daughter recently, and basically they like go bowling, like a competitive bowling, and like they suck, but the other team gets injured, so they like win by default. That's the answer to the exchange listing problem.
Hey, in Fast and the Furious terms, what was his name? Vin Diesel in the movie. Dang it, I can't remember. I'm having a brain fart. Where he says, "Winning is winning, whether it's by an inch or a mile." And that's like Vivi in a nutshell. It's like winning's winning. They're like, "Hey, we'll take it." Like, I don't know. So, anyways, yeah, Polygon setting the stand. Reese even retweeted that. Like Reese, I was like, "What's Reese doing?" So that's what like was interesting to me. Like David Hughes comments, and I'm like, maybe they do integrate Polygon. We'll see. That's complete speculation. So just take that with a huge, super huge grain of salt. But yeah, I'm bullish on layer twos. Unless
Reddit was able to drop 3 million collectibles, right? Or more than that now to Polygon. So maybe it wouldn't be that hard for them to go over to Polygon.
Yeah, Reddit world class, like in terms of like development. They've even switched their like in-app currency, which is like you would get reward your like community. I think with like stars or something. They've even switched that over to a layer. I think it was either Arbitrum. I think it was Arbitrum or AVAX, one of the two. So that was very interesting. So yeah, I was like, whoa, what's going on here? So there's a lot of things Reddit's doing that is like really exciting for the wider NFT space in crypto. So shout out to Reddit for sure, doing the things the right way, really moving the needle. Yeah.
About time.
But yeah, again,
shout out to VV Reddit because y'all suck. Yeah, I've had like the worst experiences on VV subreddit, man.
I used to be on there.
People are just so rude, so mean.
They were,
yeah. So screw y'all.
Yeah, at first it wasn't like that because I was one of the first 1,000 members. Yeah, it was like me and you, and at first we could post our videos in there, and everybody would be like, "Yeah, man." And then over time, like the Reddit grew to like 30K, or I don't know what it's at now. And then all of a sudden, people started like being like super like keyboard warriors on there. And
100%.
Which is kind of typical of Reddit.
They're the worst, bro. Like Twitter, like the VV community is pretty solid. Even the Facebook community is pretty solid. You go to Reddit and they're just like
they tear you apart, man.
Yeah,
they say some pretty dark stuff too. Like they're like, you should quit YouTube and think about like living life, like just like dark comments.
Oh,
I'm like, was that even necessary? Like, who hurt you?
No,
all right,
it's not.
But yeah, speaking of layer twos, I mean, technically, what if Ethereum could soft fork into like making these layer twos useless long term, but I don't think that happens anytime soon, because Ethereum is so slow at getting things done on their blockchain. So we'll see. Alpha, got any alpha for the day? Sign up for Castaway.
No, that was last week.
But Igor just dropped something today.
Is it Castaway though?
I don't know, bro.
Well, I was just gonna say that the the Blur season 2 airdrop is, you can still farm for that and you don't have to buy anything. But also just, I think in the next few days or weeks, volume is going to be insane because people are going to be farming and they're going to be taking risks to get this airdrop. So there's probably some great trade opportunities as well.
Sweet. Chris, so where can people find your before we sign out? I know you have a coffee shop, right? You're an owner, CEO, founder. Where can people find your coffee?
You can get my coffee. You can actually buy it at the bottom of my YouTube